Hi, Dawn Lewis here, and it is day 5 of this 7 Ways in 7 Days ATC video series featuring the Cat's Meow by Mama Elephant, which you can find in Australia at dawnlewis.com.au. You can also find archival jet black ink. I am using my stamp positioner blending card. I've got my base, a couple of dies, Copic markers, some blue cardstock and pattern paper, and we're going to start with the very basics, and that is starting on the base. I'm using 3mm double-sided tape to stick my watercolor paper onto my pattern paper. I got a little ink on this one, so I'm covering it completely with pattern paper, and the easiest way is to stick it onto the back of the paper, then trim it down because the side of the ATC works for a straight edge for the scissors. I've taken some scrap cardstock, this is Serious Stash Diving, and cut the top from the mason jar die. This one's from Uniquely Creative. It's really cool, and I'm using my scissors just to cut around that dotted line so I only have the lid cut from the cardstock. I've also cut one from a silver dotted vellum, and I'm going to stick the lid down on top. I was only going to use the 3mm tape, but that top section I thought really needed to be anchored, so I've used the Tombow mono adhesive. So now that I've got the top on the mason jar, I'm going to cut a couple of feathers. This is just a random feather die. I think I bought this in a group buy from Simon Says Stamp a couple of years ago, but any die will do that you think will work. And I'm stamping out one single kitty using Memento Tuxedo black ink onto Express It blending card. I've chosen the little one down the end holding the star, and I'm going to fussy cut that with my fine scissors, and I'm going to leave the tail on it because it's actually coming in handy to hold on to while cutting, and it will come in handy when I colour using Copic markers. So I'm keeping it fairly simple today. This cat will give the illusion of a white cat at night because there'll be a lot of shadow cast on it, and you can see the colours that I'm using on the left hand side of the screen as usual. I'm using C1, C3, C5 and C7 for the kitty. So it could be a white cat, it could be a pale grey cat. You can add more grey to make it a grey cat, and you can, if it's not quite blended out in the centre, you could use a 0. I've given pink R81 nose and ears, and I'm using wire 21 and 23 for the star. I did decide to bling up the star with a shimmer pen, which I think, stars shine, am I right? Some double-sided tape on the kitty, and before I do stick it all the way down, I'm going to add those feathers that I cut out on the back. So it's kind of like an angel kitty. I don't know. This one's kind of arty as far as my work goes. It doesn't make any sense, but it's fun and it's cool and I really like it. I've stuck it down and I'm just going to trim it off at the bottom, and now to add a little vignette, a little shadow around the edge to give it dimension. Today I'm using Distress Ink Chipped Sapphire. It's not the oxide, just a regular Distress Ink. I like to have these in the mini cubes for a couple of reasons. They save me a bit of money and they take up less space. And I use these and use these and use these, and they just don't dry out. It's wonderful. I'm adding a little bit to the wings and the lid as well. And the best way to hide your adhesive when you're sticking down vellum is to put it behind something that's on the top. In this case, the lid, and the cat, and the feathers. So I'm just going to stick this down in the very center of the ATC, and I did decide it needed something else. So I've pulled some glitter enamel dots that I picked up, or I don't know, like this is some serious stash diving I'm doing here. I've got these cool little glimmery, shimmery, glittery dots, and they're just self-adhesive, and I think they add a little something. But the border needed some definition as well. I found my eye was just wandering right off it. So just by darkening up the borders with some more chipped sapphire, it kind of keeps your eye in the center at the work we're doing. Now, as per usual, every day this week I'm using the word meow. I'm stamping it in Ranger Archival Jet Black ink, which I only need to stamp the once if I've done it right. And I'm going to trim that down with my trimmer and then mount it on a piece of black cardstock. And I have all these little bits and pieces on my desk because I knew they'd come in handy for this teeny tiny sentiment that I'm using on all of the ATCs this week. Just brushing on a little chipped sapphire to pull it all in, just lends a little cohesion to the whole thing. And I'm going to stick this onto the black cardstock as well. So your ATC, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to tell a story. Just use things that you like. Make it pretty. Make it fun. This is art. An ATC is an artist trading card. So definitely have fun with it. I did end up putting the sentiment in the center, like kind of a label on the jar, and I really liked it in that location. So there we go, one more ATC down, 2 more to go. I do hope you're enjoying this series, and thank you so much for watching. There are links below to the project blog post, ATC Swap post, if you want to join a swap in Australia, and if you're looking for Mama Elephant in Australia, you can find it at dawnlewis.com.au. I do hope that you have a very crafty day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.